Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
Now, here is a motion picture film.
And now, ladies and gents, it's yo time!
To do the bimes.
Say hello to my little friend!
Go ahead. Make my day.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
I'll shove that bat up your ass and turn you into a popsicle.
Inconceivable!
Welcome to the All-American Spookshow podcast.
I'm sorry, boys. I'm afraid I can't do that. I'm afraid I can't do that.
We smile too fast and can't think of a thing to say. Live with the best times. Live with the worst.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the All-American Spook Show podcast. I'm Josh. I'm joined here with Donny.
Hey.
And the Professor Smoak.
What's up?
And we come to you today with the latest edition of the Cult Corner series, and we're going to be talking about Memento from 2000. Now, this one, we had a little discussion off air as to whether, really, would this be considered a cult movie? Smoke, what do you think? Would you consider this a cult movie, or where does this kind of fall to you?
Yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. Because Christopher Nolan, and maybe at the time when he put this out there, he wasn't that well known because he had done one movie before it called The Following, right? Which kind of falls in line with the same sort of a neo-noir vibe, I guess. I haven't seen The Following, but I kind of know a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe cult in that it did really well, I think, for him, and it launched his career basically. But he's such a mainstream, now you think of Christopher Nolan, you think of the Batman movies, and So yeah, I don't know what I guess it is, but I don't know what the criteria necessarily. If we're talking about sort of cult films that are usually maybe not necessarily that well known, they do well for whatever reason or whatever. But this one kind of, you start by not knowing who Christopher Nolan is. You see this movie, then he made it huge in Hollywood.
Shortly after this, away we go. This really began it for him. It's loose. It's a loose cult connection. I kind of say it leans more towards cult a little bit, and I say that just because it was a fairly low budget. It was only $9 million, and it made, and it kind of slowly made a ton of money. It wasn't like it came out and it was a surefire hit. I think I saw where somewhere, all the weeks that it was out, it never ranked above number 8 in the box office the entire time it was out, but it ended up making $40 million. So, and it wasn't put out by a major studio.
See, I get that, but it is a classic. Is it a cult classic? I don't think it's a cult classic.
I think it might have. Yeah, a cult movie in a lot of ways, it kind of is a movie that, like Smoke said, maybe a lot of people haven't heard of, and then it kind of gets that's where the term comes from. It gets kind of a cult following, right? All of its fans kind of push it up to a level that it wouldn't have been otherwise. So. In that regards, maybe it is, maybe it ain't. I don't know.
Yeah.
It kind of comes across to me a little bit like Tarantino when he first came on the scene with Reservoir Dogs. I guess it kind of comes out of left field at first. You're kind of also very much because of the plot is not straightforward. Again, kind of like a Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs kind of thing. And I think that kind of lends to the cult status. Once the word got out, oh, check this movie out. It's not it's not your standard kind of fare. It's developed differently or whatever. So in that way, maybe sort of like a.
That's a good point.
I think there are some things here that lend itself more to the cult side of the ledger than just a regular Hollywood success type of flick side of the ledger. So we'll go with it. It's a thin line, really. It really is. Especially even if you can kind of say that with The Big Lebowski. It's kind of a good comparison. To go back to the beginning of Cult Corner. These are the kind of movies that we probably wouldn't talk about otherwise either. So. In some ways, this Cult Corner series kind of becomes somewhat of our favorite movie kind of place too. You know what I mean? Not genre. It's not linked to any specific genre. Just this is a place for these type of movies. So sometimes these will get nominated. Because for this one we did a wheel spin and it was just truly luck of the draw. It was 25% chance, right, that it was going to land there. So there was no deep thought put into it. It's just like, oh, well, we all nominated something, and Will actually nominated this one, and unfortunately he's not here to talk about it. But yeah, I mean, either way, I think it's a good one to talk about. Whether it's a cult movie or not, I guess we can let you guys decide. Hit us back with some feedback. What do you think? Would you consider this a cult classic or not? But either way, that's what we're here to talk about today. But before we get any deeper into it, I'll go ahead and toss out some of the usual information. You can contact us at allamericanspookshow@gmail.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, the Slasher app. You should be able to find us by searching for All American Spook Show or AA Spook Show. We have a Linktree link down in the show notes to all these things. You should be able to find them very easily there. Of course, we have our TeePublic shop where we have logo merchandise, other cool designs. We have our Patreon, patreon.com/AA Spook Show, where every month we have Craps for Peace Theater. Every month we have Library of the Professor, other cool stuff, early access to episodes, podcast episodes. So we encourage you to go over to patreon.com/AA Spook Show and become a patron of the show. Helps us out, helps us put out new cool stuff. And on that subject, we just started a cool new series, I think, over on our YouTube channel called Grindhouse Gutter. It actually debuted a couple of weeks ago, back toward the end of August. And the first episode that we did was Cannibal Holocaust. So we started off with a big one. I mean, arguably, right, Smoak, one of the biggest exploitation Grindhouse type movies you can do, right?
Yeah, it's the granddaddy, as they say, of that.
The next Grindhouse Gutter is going to come out this week. I'm not sure about specifically what day, but it will come out some point this week. So we behoove you to go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe and click on the bell to be notified whenever something goes up. That way you won't miss it. But at some point this week, the next Grindhouse Gutter will come out. And what are we gonna be partaking in this week, Smoak?
Well, I thought I'd do another semi-historical Grindhouse movie since, Cannibal Holocaust is probably the most notorious. I'm going to go with Kung Fu flick, 5 Fingers of Death, which was also known as King Boxer. But in the U.S., it was released as 5 Fingers of Death. That's when it hit grindhouses under that title, and that was in March. Even though the movie came out in Hong Kong in 1972, it came out over here in 1973, and it pretty much, that, not too long ago, it was followed by Bruce Lee's The Big Boss. Released in the U.S., I believe at the time, as Fist of Fury. Those two movies just, took the U.S. by storm as far as Kung Fu craze. It pretty much launched the whole basically them taking all these Shaw Brothers movies that had already, come out and re-released them over here in the Grindhouse circuit. And it led to, you can just go down the line. It led to like Karate Kid and all these things. Pretty much the whole martial arts fever that hit the U.S. with schools opening. Hell, I even took Kung Fu for a number of years in high school. So, I mean, it basically launched the martial arts craze in America and in the Grindhouse scene. So that's what we'll do.
Well, that sounds good. I'm looking forward to that. So you want to head over to our YouTube channel, which the link is once again down in the show notes. The Linktree link there. There's a link that'll take you right to our YouTube page, so you can subscribe, and you won't miss a thing when this and other series start coming out over on our YouTube. But yeah, so without any further build-up, I guess we'll go ahead and toss to the trailer for Memento.
I have this condition.
The condition?
It's my memory.
Amnesia.
No. It's different from that. What? Since my injury, I can't make new memories. Everything fades. If we talk for too long, I'll forget how we started. Next time I see you, I'm not going to remember this conversation.
What's the last thing that you do remember?
My wife.
That's sweet.
Dying.
Lenny!
I guess I've already told you about my condition.
Oh, well, only every time I see you.
You don't remember where you've been or what you've just done?
No, I can't make new memories. It's like waking. It's like you just woke up.
When you find this guy, what are you gonna do?
I'm gonna kill him.
Maybe I can help you find him. Are you sure you want this?
My wife deserves vengeance.
Do not trust her. She's gonna use you to protect herself.
I think someone's been trying to get me to kill the wrong guy.
You can question everything. You can never know anything for sure.
Teddy, don't believe his lies.
You wander around playing detective. Well, maybe you should start investigating yourself.
Who did this to you?
You did.
I want my life back!
Why are you asking me? I can't remember what I've done.
I have no short-term memory. Since my injury, I can't make new memories. Everything fades. If we talk for too long, I'll forget how we started. And next time I see you, I'm not going to remember this conversation. I don't even know if I've met you before. I've told you this before, haven't I?
All right, so there you go. So before we have our little, roundtable discussion about the movie, I'll go ahead and throw out some information. And there's quite a bit of it for a movie like this, obviously for a lot of reasons. An alternate title for this one, and it was actually called this in some other countries, which I thought this would have probably been just as well, and probably would have explained more of what you're about to see, because it was simply titled Amnesia. So I guess you wouldn't want to call it what he really had. What was it, Donnie, that like the guy actually had? What did they call that?
It was anterograde amnesia.
Yeah,
is actually
so
the name of
kind of a form of amnesia, but
yeah.
But you're not. My point is, you're not going to call the movie anterograde amnesia. You know,
probably not.
Yeah. But it debuted September 5th, 2000 at the Venice Film Festival. But it was actually released here in the United States March 16th, 2001. That was a limited release. And then it grew theaters over, the next couple months, really. And then basically it was wide by May 25th of 2001. It was produced by Summit Entertainment, Team Todd, I Remember Productions, and New Market Capital Group. And it was distributed by New Market Films. And New Market Films was actually years later, bought out by Lionsgate. So that's who currently owns the New Market Films library. This film was rated R, total runtime of 1 hour, 53 minutes. It's a neo-noir mystery thriller, and it was filmed in and around Los Angeles, the Los Angeles area, Burbank, and in parts in Las Vegas, from September 7th to October 8th of 1999, for a budget of $9 million, like we discussed earlier. It had a worldwide gross of slightly over $40 million. But it took it a while to get there. But that first weekend that it opened limited, which was the weekend of March 16th through the 18th of 2001, I've got the top 10. Now, it did not crack the top 10. It was number 27 that week. But like I said, it was literally only in, which this is pretty impressive considering. It was number 27 in the box office, even though it only played in 11 theaters domestically here in the United States. So that's pretty good.
I mean,
it made over $235,000 that weekend. But I as we always do, I just like running through the top 10. They're always kind of a fun snapshot of the time. Number 10 was Traffic. Number 9, Chocolat, which I think that actually had Carrie Ann Moss in it too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So she had two movies playing at the same time. Number 8, Hannibal. Number 7, Down to Earth. Number 6, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That had been out for 15 weeks by that time. Number 5, 15 Minutes. Number 4, See Spot Run. Donnie, that's one of your favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, The Mexican. And number 2 opened up that week, Enemy at the Gates. And number 1, which opened that week, Exit Wounds. So there's your March 2001 snapshot of the movie.
Is that DMX?
Exit Wounds? That has Steven Seagal and DMX, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at this point, you are talking about something that came out 21 years ago. So unless it was something that I really loved, I'm probably just going to forget about it, And I believe I was still working. I might have still been working like part-time at a movie theater at this point in time. So
no.
Yeah, it was a slow season, clearly. Yeah, but anyways, it's always interesting to look back on. Now, this one turned out to be obviously hugely successful financially, but also critically. It was nominated, among many other awards, it was nominated for 2 Oscars, the following year, 2002, for Best Original Screenplay and Best Film Editing, but it didn't win either of them. The Best Original Screenplay Oscar ended up going to Gosford Park, and the Best Film Editing Oscar ended up going to Black Hawk Down, which in hindsight, I haven't seen either one of those. I've never seen Gosford Park, and Black Hawk Down I watched probably not long after it came out or something. So
yeah,
those are for me, those are forgettable compared to this movie, though. And the editing in this movie is just insane. For this movie not to at least get the Oscar for that is a crime. But you know how it is sometimes. And of course, the big winner at the Oscars that year, although this wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but I just thought I should mention it. The big winner that year was A Beautiful Mind. That was the big release that raked up Best Picture and a bunch of other awards Ron Howard for Best Director, a bunch of others that year. So, once again, another snapshot. It's always interesting. This movie was based on a story by Christopher Nolan's brother, Jonathan Nolan, called Memento Mori, which was a slightly different, basically like Christopher Nolan wrote the screenplay for this, but like it was based on an idea of his brother, and then his brother kind of wrote his own version of the story that got published in Esquire magazine around the same time that the movie got released. So that came out like in 2001 in Esquire, and then the movie comes out, you know, like we said, around the same time period. But it is a slightly different take, apparently, his story versus what this movie.
Yeah, they had actually they still consider Christopher Nolan's screenplay to be an original screenplay.
Yeah, yeah, because it wasn't based on the story. It was like his brother like told him an idea, like he gave him the idea for it, and then they both kind of worked on it together, and it grew into this screenplay. So it is an original screenplay. Yeah. Even though it is based on a story made by his brother, you know, so it's kind of confusing that way, but they basically worked together to formulate this thing. Fast forward ahead, in 2017, it was preserved in the United States Library of Congress in the National Film Registry. So that's how important this movie became, is that it's actually one of the ones preserved in the Library of Congress. There's also, you know, if you've seen the movie, and obviously I'll pause here. If you haven't seen this movie, hit pause on this podcast, go watch this movie, and then come back, because we do not want to spoil this for you, and we are a spoiler-filled podcast. So this is one of those kind of movies that, please, don't listen to this and then go watch it. Please go watch this movie if you haven't seen it, and then come back to us, because you need to see it. Love it or hate it, it needs to be seen because of the uniqueness of it all. But, so that being said, the way this movie plays out is it's kind of backwards, right? Like, the entire movie is played backwards. There is a chronological order version of the movie that's out there.
Yeah, you can watch it on the, I believe it's the special edition version.
I lifted this straight out of Wikipedia. The chronological order of the story can be viewed as a hidden feature on the 2-disc limited edition Region 1 DVD and the 3-disc special edition Region 2 DVD. In this special feature, the chapters of the film are put together into the chronological order and is shown like this, like ending credits run in reverse. Then basically the end of the movie, because they numbered the segments of the movie, like 1 through 22, and then the black and white segments like A through V. So it goes opposite in this version, 1 through 22, and then A through V. Then the opening title runs backward to what was shown. The opening title sequence is run in reverse during the actual movie, so it's shown forward in this version. If any of that makes sense. So like,
no, not at all. Say it again.
They flip it upside down. It's as simple as that. Also, a couple other fascinating notes I saw. Brad Pitt was actually supposed to be Leonard, but because he had some other conflicts, he couldn't do it. And they also considered Aaron Eckhart and Thomas Jane for the role, but it ended up going to Guy Pearce. Also, Donnie, I thought you would find this interesting as a big Radiohead fan. They wanted Paranoid Android to use for the final credits, I guess, but they couldn't secure the rights for whatever reason. So
it was it was something about the royalties were going to be too expensive.
So, which is ironic considering they ended up getting Something in the Air by David Bowie, but you would think that would be expensive. But then I think I did see also they did end up using a Radiohead track in the soundtrack for this. It wasn't Paranoid Android; it was a different song. It was released on DVD and VHS September 4th, 2001, and then eventually got a Blu-ray release. 2 different Blu-ray releases. There were multiple DVD releases as well throughout the years, but that was the first release, September of 2001. But then 2 Blu-ray releases, one in 2006 and then one in 2011. It's currently streaming on HBO Max, Hoopla, and Canopy. Like we mentioned earlier, it was directed and the screenplay was written by Christopher Nolan, who would best be known for the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Dunkirk, Interstellar, Tenet. The dude's got like a laundry list of movies that came out after this movie. Like this was the movie that kind of, lit him on fire, and then those Dark Knight movies, took him into the stratosphere, and Inception, of course. But yeah, Dunkirk, Interstellar, Tenet, all great movies. It stars Guy Pearce as Leonard, who would be known from, he's tons of TV and movie work, but he was in Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. He was in Prometheus, and he was also in Iron Man 3. It stars Carrie-Anne Moss as Natalie. She would, you could argue, best be known for her role as Trinity in the Matrix, all 4 Matrix films. She was in Fido, Silent Hill Revelation, The Bye-Bye Man, just some horror titles for you. And Joe Pantoliano as Teddy, He was in the original Matrix movie with Carrie-Anne Moss. Also, he was in Smoak. He was in one of your favorites, The Final Terror. Donny, he was in one of your favorites, The Goonies.
Straight up.
Of course, he was one of the Fratellis.
Yeah.
He was in 2 episodes of Tales from the Crypt. He was in 21 episodes of The Sopranos. All 3 Bad Boys movies, so the Bad Boys trilogy of movies. Those. I mean, there are plenty of other good cast members in this movie, like Stephen Tobolowsky and Mark Boone Jr. and stuff. But yeah, those are the main cast members of this film. Really, that's about all I had before we dive into it. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to add? Any tidbits I left off?
This movie's got a lot of everything. If we were to go through probably all of the little idiosyncrasies of this movie, we'd probably be here for about 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, not even within the movie, just the stuff behind the scenes and
Yeah.
We kind of talk about how this movie is just backwards, reversed, just everything. The narrative jumps 113 times. So, just from jumping around from one time period to another,
It's an undertaking.
Yeah,
not just
definitely.
Not just to watch it, but like everything they did, Christopher Nolan specifically did, to put this movie together, write this movie.
Listen, this would have drove me insane. Just like, one thing I read, the cinematographer, Wally Pfister, a friend, I think it was a friend of his, turned down the DP role because he didn't understand the script.
Yeah.
And then it eventually went to Wally Pfister, and he was talking to the guy that turned it down, and he said, "Yeah, I didn't understand it either." But I mean, yeah, it's like even the people that were working on it, they weren't entirely sure what the hell was going on.
And I'm sure it added to the confusion. I mean, look, if you know anything about how they make movies, generally movies aren't made like in order anyways. You're shooting the ending first and the beginning last. You're all over the place. But I'm sure this one was even more confusing because, the editing wise, that's where they're going to put it all together. But honestly, with this one, it was probably almost a process of like, they probably filmed it closer to chronological order making it than they did when it actually got put together, where it's usually in most films, it's the other way around, but yeah, and I think I saw somewhere where like the 3 main players, Leonard, Teddy, and Natalie, they were only on set together for like a couple days because, the way they filmed it and, it was spread out and they didn't really have any scenes where they were all together all at the same time anyways, so yeah, I'm sure it was a lot of storyboarding, having shit like on Post-it notes on a table and like, all right, let's make sure we got all this shit, in order and how we're doing it here.
Of course, on the upside was if oh hey, here's a reel we forgot. I don't know where this reel is. I just stick it in wherever.
Yeah, it'll make sense in the end.
Yeah, actually, and it only took 25 days to shoot.
Yeah,
which was
to me, this is more of an editing type of movie. Like I said, which is crazy that it didn't win the Oscar that year for best film editing. All the things that you see here on the screen were done in post kind of thing, and not CGI type stuff. What I mean is like putting this story together is more of an editing feat than it was a shooting feat, if that makes sense,
Yeah, there's probably a lot more. I'm sure there was a lot more post-production involved with this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we said it. I said it earlier. Whenever that time frame, they ended filming October 8th of '99, but it didn't come out until March of 2001. Yeah. But then again, there was I guess the first it debuted September 5th of 2000. So that's almost a year from the time that they ended filming to the time that it debuted at the Venice Film Festival. That's almost a year of post production, and this ain't the Avengers, where there's a lot of, CGI and special effects that have to be done here. This is more of just like laying out your cards out on the table, making sure it makes sense, And
it's probably a lot of stuff of Nolan himself going through, I don't like that there. Let's move that here.
Mm-hmm.
Up there, yeah. Of like trial and error until he got the right cut that he wanted, so to speak.
Because it's very important in the way he made this movie that it had to make sense. Like all the pieces had to fit together perfectly. And then they showed those little, for lack of a better term, interstitials that would kind of connect the, like we went back. All right, now we're going forward. We went back, and then at the end of it, there would be that little piece of the connecting puzzle piece to connect you to the previous scene that you just saw and back and back and back and back, like that. That's a lot, man. Just to make it make sense. That's a lot.
Yeah, it reminds me, like I mentioned in the beginning. I mean, it's got a little bit of that Tarantino vibe of like, well, although it's kind of like, what can I, you've seen Pulp Fiction, so now I'm going to take it and twist it even further, as far as the playing with people's, how the plot develops basically backwards. Kind of. Another movie it kind of reminds me of, not the plot at all, but you ever seen or heard of Irreversible?
No.
French movie. Kind of falls within that extreme cinema a little bit. Gaspar Noé directed it, but it works in backwards. It starts at the end of the movie and works to the beginning of the movie, so to speak. So always interesting when directors can pull that off.
And if you think about it, this isn't the first time we've watched a movie that's kind of like this. You remember You Might Be the Killer. I know. Let's compare Memento to that, but you see what I'm saying? Though, like it was kind of the same in a way, like just told a different way, but the general premise is roughly the same. One of Donny's favorites.
You didn't think we'd get that comparison in the show?
See?
Never.
Had to slide one in on you, a little curveball.
It's intermission, it's intermission. It's intermission, it's intermission. Ice cream, candy, lemonade too. And there's a hot dog waiting for you.
The popcorn's popping and it's ready to go. All the great food is stealing the show.
Get up out your seat and get yourself a tasty treat down at the snack bar. Snack bar.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So I just went over to Audible and I typed in Memento to see what would pop up. And right here we have Memento, an Illuminati Files novella. I don't know if it's about the Illuminati or something, I don't know, but by Amy Kaufman, Jay Kristoff. Apparently it's part of a series, the Illuminati Files, book half. But it's only an hour and a half long. And there we have Memento Mori by Muriel Spark. And that one is 6 hours and 31 minutes. So I'm not sure if that's kind of the same thing remember, that was the name of the story that Jonathan Nolan had wrote for Esquire. So, but there's a different one here also. I'm sorry.
Memento Mori is also some other thing, right?
It must mean something else. Yeah, because there's another book. Yeah. There's another book called Memento Mori, Roman Empire Series, Book 8 by Ruth Downey. That one's almost 11 hours long. So yeah, clearly Memento Mori means something. Who knows? If you know Italian or Greek or whatever the hell that is, let us know. Let us know what that means, because I'm not looking it up. But yeah, if any of that if any of that interests you, you can go over there and look that up and download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audiobook. It's a good deal. I suggest you take advantage of it. Helps, gives you a free book, helps us out. We're all winners. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to IMDb, and I'm going to hit plot summaries, and I'm going to see what pops up. And we've got a few here. I'm not going to read all of these because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different plot synopsis or plot summaries on IMDb for this one. Not surprising that there'd be a bunch for a movie like this, but I'll read a few here. You got the one sentence short one. A man with short-term memory loss attempts to track down his wife's murderer. Yep, that's it. All right, so what are we going to watch next week? A slightly longer one. Memento Chronicles. Well, I should say this one was submitted by Scion013 on IMDb. Memento chronicles 2 separate stories of Leonard, an ex-insurance investigator who can no longer build new memories as he attempts to find the murderer of his wife, which is the last thing he remembers. One storyline moves forward in time, while the other tells the story backwards, revealing more each time. Let's see, I'll read one more. This one's a little longer. It's contributed by Huggo on IMDb. Leonard Shelby has short-term memory loss resulting from an injury he sustained which was associated with the murder of his wife. He remembers his life prior to the incident, such as being an insurance claims investigator. He has learned to cope with his memory loss through dealing with a man named Sammy Jankus, a person he investigated professionally who also had short-term memory issues. Some of these coping mechanisms are to have a system of where to place things, talk to people face-to-face if possible rather than on the telephone, as to be able to gauge their true intention, take Polaroids and write copious notes, the most important of those which he tattoos on his body so that they become permanent. Leonard's current mission is to find and kill his wife's murderer, who he believes is a man named John G., a name which is tattooed on his body. Over the course of a day, Leonard is assisted in this mission by a few people seemingly independent of each other, including a man named Teddy and a woman named Natalie. However, each time he meets them, he has no idea who they are, why they are helping him, and if indeed they are working toward the same goal as him. So really, I mean, like, where do we start here with this thing? I mean, right at the beginning, those Polaroids and like reverse developing is really kind of like, it grabs you right out the gates, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was cool. And it also kind of mimics his, Leonard's fading memory.
Yeah, I mean, well, really the whole movie kind of does, right? Like,
oh yeah,
the whole thing is basically seeing what life would be like through his eyes, of not being able to remember what the hell you just did. So like, that's why I put in the notes, like, man, this really is a masterclass on how to make a movie that you better fucking pay attention to. Like, this isn't the kind of movie you just put on in the background and go do something else. Like,
yeah,
you either watch this thing or don't watch it, because if you're not watching it, man, you're not going to go, what the fuck is going on? I remember that even like the first time I watched that, like probably 20 years ago or something. This was like, I'm not going to say it's a mind fuck. I mean, because if you're paying attention, you understand what's going on. It's just that the way that the story is told, you really have to pay attention.
Basically makes you a participant in it. Like, you have to participate in it. Because if you don't know shit about what the hell just happened.
Yeah.
You can't really necessarily go into it too tired. You know what I mean?
No.
And, where your mind's not really watching whatever's going on, or you're, like you said, doing something else or whatever, when you got it on playing or something. Yeah, you can't. Definitely not one of those movies.
Yeah, you truly have to focus on this movie. Which, ultimately you should pay, if you're watching a film, you should pay attention, but obviously what I mean by that is this is one that really makes you pay attention.
It's thought provoking, and it, it really is.
So much so that, like, you wonder what you would do if you were like this, like if you had something like that. Man, this condition, like I wrote in there, this condition would suck. Like, it would just, like, I'm assuming this is a real thing, right? Like, I mean, it's not just something they make. Yeah. Like, medically, this.
I looked up to see how rare it was. Or I'm sorry, I looked up to see how common it was, and turns out it's really rare. But I could not find a number like that. This happens in maybe 1 in 500,000 or something like that. I couldn't find a number. It just said that it was just rare.
It's probably so rare that they don't really have odds on it.
Yeah, they probably don't. So.
I mean, I've never heard of anything like this other than, this movie, for instance, like I've heard of amnesia, of course, the old trope of somebody getting conked in the head and they don't remember anything for X amount of time. Everybody knows that one, but this is something else. Like, he can't make new memories. So it's like, it's like loss of short-term memory, but like extreme loss of short-term memory. Like,
God, I remember many years ago, I tried to fake amnesia to get out of work. But I remember doing that shit, but
by years ago, you mean 2 weeks ago, right?
Ah, well,
That part where Natalie, like, just provokes him, where she's just like, I'm gonna, like, she basically just berates him and just calls him retarded, and like, and just gives him like total shit, and like, I can say and do whatever the fuck I want to do because you're not gonna remember this in 5 minutes, And then she just, and like, he smacks her or punches her or something, right? And then she just goes out to the car and sits there, and then comes back in, and sure enough, like, oh, hey, how you doing? What happened to you?
Which begs the question too of, like, you have to figure out how long. Like, she only went outside for like 5 seconds, came back, like, oh, yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I hit you. Okay, let me go back out for maybe 15 more seconds and see what.
Yeah,
maybe a minute.
Now, are we led to believe, like, that was one thing too about Natalie, like, are we led to believe, like, in this time frame that you see here in the movie, that's where he meets her? Because otherwise, she jumps to a lot of conclusions pretty quick, right? Like, is this something where, like, they've known each other for a while, or it kind of looked to me like, no, she just met him and she figured out, like, yeah, this dude really is messed up in the head, and then she immediately takes advantage of him. Is that what you're led to believe?
From what they give us, that's what we're led to.
Yeah, just from
given movie, I guess, or it kind of like leaves it kind of open ended where you don't really know exactly. You kind of like where he is, sort of. I mean, almost where you're kind of lost.
I think there are a lot of aspects of this movie where they left it like, he let Christopher Nolan, I should say, Nolan left it that way for a reason. There are gaps here. You could probably watch this movie 5 or 6 times in a row and not really fit all the puzzle pieces together exactly. You know, you'd still have questions.
Yeah, even if you watch it chronologically.
Yeah, and I would like to sit down one day and watch it like that just to see how different it is. Now, I saw somewhere, this isn't like the DVD extra one, but like I just randomly looked after I watched it, like, hey, I wonder if there's a chronological cut out there. And this is before I did the research, you know, that there was one on the DVD. Someone, I believe it was over on the Internet Archive, has uploaded a chronological version that they put together, I assume. And apparently it said that they cut out, it's basically the entire movie, but they cut out 3 or 4 minutes of like, you know, those little connecting threads where it would go back and then it would replay a few seconds of the previous scene to kind of connect the dots. It takes all that stuff out because there's no need for it. So it's, you know, sans 3 or 4 minutes, but it would be interesting to watch it that way just to see if you pick up on anything differently that way, or, I mean, really it would become somewhat of a normal movie if it's not played that way, right? Like, in the sense of like, would it still hit the same way, you know, if you're watching it chronologically?
Probably not. And then there's another cut out there where I think they inserted Jar Jar Binks in the random cut.
Why?
And then just Vader going, no, and then that's it.
Hey, you don't remember me?
So I guess that the black and white story that is kind of told in forward throughout the movie is really him telling the story of this guy that he once, when he was an insurance investigator, the Sammy Jankis story, which is, by the way, the whole story is fucked. But is that's supposed to be him, right? I mean, like, is that the conclusion that you come to?
Yeah, there was a time when, you know, you saw Sammy in the chair, and I guess this was after his wife, you know, died. You saw Sammy in the chair, someone walks by, and then it's Leonard in the chair. You know, you only see it for a split second.
Yeah, it's almost like that. And remember in Fight Club when they put in 3 frames of porn, and so it's you know, it's barely enough to where you don't realize what you just saw, but for some reason you still register that you just saw it.
Yeah, something else I did notice was when he wrote on the Polaroid, "Do not trust her." It was in it was in cursive instead of his normal print.
That may or may not mean anything, right? Like, maybe, I don't know, but I'm thinking it's more of like he just wrote that because Teddy was asking him to do it. Remember, Teddy's like, no, you need to write this down. Take a pen and you need to write this down. And so he's all right, whatever the fuck. And then he just, you know, scribbles it as fast as he can, kind of thing, to just kind of placate Teddy. And then the first chance he gets, he just, you know, he crosses it back out. So I think that might have more to do with just, I'm just doing this because of Teddy's sitting here, and as soon as he leaves, I'm, you know, but who knows, right? There might be some deeper.
That's true. Now also, Sammy's middle finger montage.
Yeah. When he keeps picking up the little metal triangle or whatever it is.
Yeah, a little shocker thing. Yeah.
So his condition was, well, they tried to say that it wasn't physical. It was like a psychotic problem, not psychotic, but, you know, it's in his mind, right? Is that what they were saying his condition was? So basically it was unfixable. I don't know, man. Like, there's a lot of, like, I get it that, like, in the end, like, no, they're really, what, I guess that's the question. Was there really even a Sammy Jankis? Is that even a real dude? Or is it just so happened that, like, there was a guy like that, and then this shit happens to him? It just so happens to be the same thing that was going on with Sammy Jankis. I mean, what do you think about that? Was there really a Sammy? I guess is the question.
I think that's another thing where he's kind of like, where he's messing with you again, too. Like, it could be. I mean, because they show him trying to remember, like, when he was messing with his wife. At first, it shows him putting the insulin needle in his wife's leg. And then the next scene, it's like he's pinching her leg.
He's pinching her, yeah.
So it's like he's kind of messing with you, the viewer, too, to like, well, maybe it's in his mind. This whole character's in his mind. Or maybe he did kill his wife with the insulin by not knowing the, you know, or whatever. I don't know that it's a real definite answer either way.
Yeah, because you are led to believe that, like, the incident with his wife, where somebody comes in and rapes and kills his wife, right? Like, kind of in some way did happen, right? Because the whole thing at the end was Teddy basically, yeah, we caught that dude like a year ago, but I've just been, since you don't remember anything, I've just been using you to do other shit, right? So, like, so it leads you to believe that, like, something really did happen to her, right? But I don't.
Maybe he's the one, because as he said, you know, hey, my initials, or mine is, you know, JG.
John,
is that what it was?
Yeah. James something, whatever. Yeah, it was JG.
Maybe he did that to his wife. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just, I think it's very open ended as far as, but I think Nolan did that on purpose to fuck with the viewer even more.
And the guy that ran the hotel was renting him 2 different rooms.
Oh yeah.
He's like, yeah, just 2. You only how many rooms do I have? Oh, just 2. I just just been fucking with it.
I had to meet the quota or something, so he's renting him 2 rooms. I don't.
And then what's her name? Messing with him with the spitting in the drink and whatever. Remember the bar?
Oh yeah,
bar scene. Spitting in, and then he goes and sits it down. Here you go on the house.
The old barfly like hawks a lug in there, and then she spits in it.
Yeah.
And then he spits in it, and then she just. And then he just walks over to the little cubicle and still drinks it. Well, that's I think that's evidence enough for me that this dude, he's fucked in the head all right, for sure. He's not lying. Yeah, a lot of good stuff here, man. It really was well put together. But I guess in the end, what do you think about the beginning as far as the beginning? Well, I guess the end is the beginning or the end is the beginning is the end or whatever the fuck. It's basically all a circle, right?
Yeah, it's just I mean,
because it basically kind of like I really thought that was a cool transition too, where you're going from the color scenes are in reverse, so to speak, and then the black and white scenes are kind of like forward, right? Somewhere toward the end there, that black and white scene is playing out, and then you notice there's a slow dissolve of the color, so it just flips right there, and then basically what you're seeing as the beginning of the story is really at the end of the movie. Is just basically starting the whole movie over again.
Yeah.
Cuckoo.
You can understand that DP, Donny, as you were mentioning. I can't remember his name, but getting that script and we're talking about it after the fact, after the movie's already made, come out. But if you're trying to read a script where it's trying to describe what's going on in the movie, I don't know, fuck this. And then later, it kind of regretting it because it became a whatever you want to call it, a cult hit or whatever. Or it made a name for everybody, I think, in the movie.
Yeah, his name was Mark Vargo.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he was actually a cinematographer on fuck.
There was a movie called Fuck.
Yeah, fuck. Yeah, I guess he's more primarily known visual effects artist for Ghostbusters, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, In the Line of Fire, tons more. He's got a lot of IMDb credits, probably over 100.
Yeah, I can see not visualizing it in his head because you got no what the hell's going on with the storyline. Yeah, the other guy's sister, like you said, he's like, oh, I don't know what the fuck's going on either. But I'm just gonna shoot some. I'm just gonna set some shit up and okay, all right, looks good, I guess. It does look good though. The cinematography does look.
Oh yeah, great. I mean, everything about it. Like,
I love just the looks. I mean, the sound design, everything is good.
Yeah.
As far as as you say, it's an editing masterpiece.
Yeah, awesomely put together, well edited. Obviously, the screenplay is just so original and and off the charts. Yeah, like you said, even the look of it, the direction, everything. I mean, it's a great movie. And I dare say, I bet you, I have, it's not like I'm sitting around watching all the Best Picture nominees from 2002 right now, but I bet you anything, if you go watch all those and compare it to this, at least 1 or 2 of those probably isn't going to hold up as well as this one did. No. I bet you $5. This is one of those movies they teach in classes and stuff like that.
Yep.
This really is like a masterpiece type of movie. Like this is an example of how you do it right. To that end, one last thing, but before we get into our usual stuff at the end here, this film appears on tons of best film lists. The BBC ranked it the number 25 on the 21st century's 100 greatest films. Hollywood Reporter, Hollywood's 100 favorite films, it was number 89. Empire magazine, the 301 greatest movies of all time, it's number 58. It's also on Empire's list of the 500 greatest movies of all time, it's number 173. It goes up as high as number 2 on Total Film's 50 best movies of our lifetime. IMDb, 15th anniversary of top 15 films for the last 15 years, it's number 7. And on and on. Even American Film Institute, AFI, top 10 films of the year, it was number 6. It even won a Bram Stoker Award, Smoak, for best screenplay for Christopher.
Oh, really?
Christopher, that year. So that's interesting. Saturn Awards, which we bring up often on the show, it won best action adventure thriller film, and Guy Pearce was actually nominated for best actor, but he didn't win it. And there was actually talk of a remake of this movie, which I don't know about that. Sometimes I think you should just leave it alone.
Yeah, I don't think you should even bother with trying to do that.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and toss it to you first, Donny.
Where's the cult connections? Come out and play!
Yeah, thanks for cutting that, because I know it just keeps on. Oh,
no, I haven't cut it yet. I'll go ahead and let it trail off.
Oh, yeah. I know it just keeps on going for like a minute. No, so, all right. So basically what we do here is we try to connect the current movie to past Spook Show episodes, and there were a couple of connections. There are no one on the cast side, unfortunately. But on the crew side, we do have a couple of stunt crew members that that actually worked on Annabelle, which is a prior episode. I believe it's episode number 12. And then also our one of our Crapsterpiece episodes.
We're getting a surprise crap connection here.
Yeah, surprise crap connection. One of the stunt crew also worked on... one of the stunt crew for Memento also worked on No Holds Barred, which was our second Crapsterpiece theater.
I was going to say he was slumming it, but it was the reverse. He mementoed us. Yeah, he worked on the shittier one before the good one.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. It was Crapsterpiece 3.
So there, if we were looking to tie Memento to Hulk Hogan, you just did it.
There you go.
Maybe that's the new shtick. How does this movie connect to Hulk Hogan?
My God.
Yeah. So, anyways, we don't do the gore score, and we don't do the kill count, because obviously this isn't a horror movie. But we still do the star rating. So, Donnie, I'll let you get started. What are your thoughts on it, and what's your star rating?
Man, yeah, this is a bona fide classic. We shit. What else is there to say about it that we haven't already discussed? Only thing left is my star rating. I'm giving it a flat 4 stars.
Professor, what do you say?
Yeah, this is the second time I've seen it. The first time in 20 years, probably, or 19, somewhere in there. And of course, you could watch it a few more times. You could probably turn around and watch it the next day and still catch stuff you didn't catch before. So it definitely has rewatchability. Although I'll also say, though, as we discussed, it's not one that you want to watch when you're kind of tired and stuff. And unfortunately for me, I didn't get a chance to watch this movie until today when I got off work. And I was supposed to work 8-hour shift, and I ended up working almost 12 hours.
Ugh.
So by the time I got home and watched it, I was a little bit tired. And I did. I mean, I was fine as far as, I'd seen it before, but still, it was like my attention was there, but my, a little straying a little bit because of just being tired. And that's definitely not the ideal situation to watch this movie. But it's a great movie, and I would need to see it again. I could watch it again when I'm more coherent and have it, and have some sleep and
yeah, take a nice long nap, get you a cup of coffee, and go put it back on again. Yeah. And maybe by then you can, if you get a chance, you can re-rate it on the 4th anniversary show on Halloween.
and this is another one too, where you could probably watch 4 or 5 times and still re-rate it some degree. You might watch it again and like, damn, this is a fucking masterpiece, and I should give it pretty much close to 5 stars. Or the next time you're like I said, like you're in a mood where you're real super tired and you like miss stuff and you got to go back and damn it, I'm gonna go back. I went back, I had a chapter in the DVD and I still don't remember this part. Let me go back. And then you're like, well, damn, I don't know, maybe it's a little overrated. So there's all kind of different avenues I think you could watch this movie under. And I'd like to watch the chronological and just see what that's like. Experience of that is. But yeah, I'm gonna give it 3 3/4 till I can get back to it yet again, and I may very well re-rate it again. But yeah, for right now I'm gonna 3 3/4.
Yeah, like Donnie said, what more can we say about it that we've already said here? I mean, it's so well done from top to bottom, so well written, edited, shot, everything. It's just, I'm not saying it's the perfect movie or anything but it's just a well done movie. And I'm sure it's one of those ones that people will look back on and really, like, as time goes on. I mean, not that it was shit on at the time, because it wasn't. I mean, it was even highly regarded back then by critics and everything. But I really think it's one of those ones that a lot of people need to go kind of have a reevaluation 20, 25, 30 years later and really appreciate it more for what it is. Maybe to bump it up even higher than it was. But that being said, I think, Donnie, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to give it a flat 4 stars. So we'll get Will's rating, whenever he gets a chance, either on the next episode or, at least by the 4th anniversary show, we'll get his rating. But I have a feeling since he was the one that nominated this, his rating's probably going to be pretty high. Because I've talked to him, and I know that this is one that he's watched a lot of times, and he really loves this movie. So there will be no surprise if this is a 4+ rating out of him for sure. But we'll find out for sure when we get him back on, and we'll figure it out. But yeah, there you go. That's Memento. But before we tap out just completely on that one, I'll leave you with the critic aggregates on it. IMDb, it gets 8.4 out of 10 stars. Metacritic, the Metascore is 80. That's out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes on the tomato meter, surprise, surprise, certified fresh, 93%, with an audience score of 94%. Audiences and critics alike all love this movie, so no question about that. Probably one of the more, this is rare air for us here on the Spookshow. Show. We don't do a lot of big Oscar winner movies either. We've only done a couple, right, that actually have an Oscar, so this is another one, so very rare air. But speaking of the air, next week we're going to be taking to the air, and we're going to be watching Donny's choice from 1986, The Fly.
That's right.
I'll read you the brief synopsis over on IMDb. A brilliant but eccentric scientist begins to transform into a giant man-fly hybrid after one of his experiments goes horribly wrong. And that's, of course, by the great David Cronenberg. Now, talk about remakes, Smoak. This is one of the better ones, right?
Yeah, this is one of my personal favorite remakes.
Yeah.
I forget what number I had it at, but I'm pretty sure if we go back in the Spookshow archives on YouTube when we did our favorite remakes, I know I have it in there, but I can't remember what the number was.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe you and Will had it very high on your list. So we're going to be going with Donny's choice next week for The Fly, Donny. So that was a really good one. And then just looking ahead a little bit, and just because of the way we have to schedule things out and everything, we're going to make a couple of announcements. The next episode after The Fly, episode 126, we're going to be talking to the author of the Canon Film Guide Volume 1 and now Volume 2, Austin Trunick. He regularly appears with his Canon Chronicles segment on our Canon Fodder episodes. He's going to be coming back for a full episode. We're going to have a whole interview with him talking about Volume 2 of the Canon Film Guide and those years that he talks about. I think it's only like a 2 or 3 year period that book involves of Canon film. So those are some big years. I think it's 85 to 87, I think, that he captures in that volume. And the book's like double the size of the first one. So it's going to be interesting to talk to Austin about that. But once we get past that, Smoak, I'm going to hand the baton over to you because this is your pick. It's going to be your choice, and this is going to be the last movie of the line of movies that we've been watching since we came out of Camp Spookshow. That's going to lead us straight into the month of October. So the choice is yours. What do you got?
I got one that I think will be good for leading us into October, and not that it's Halloween related necessarily directly, anyways. But I'm going to go with 2016 movie called The Witch from Robert Eggers.
Oh,
nice.
Oh
boy, this is going to be fun to explain.
Yeah, not as fun as Memento is, I guess. I mean,
well,
now
true,
it's not
you're right.
Not as it's all over the place like Memento was as far as the reverse order or anything, but yeah, it's like symbolism and the fact that they're speaking in a language, well, English, but still speaking sort of old English as they did, in the colonies at the time. So yeah, it'll be interesting when I think it. And like I said, leading into Halloween, what better way to lead into it with some classic witch folklore? So.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because I've seen it, but I haven't seen it since it came out on Blu-ray. Sometime around there because I did not see that in the theater, so it was sometime after it got released. It's always a fuzzy Blu-ray, digital, all that. Whatever the first opportunity I got to watch it was, I remember being at home. But yeah, I have seen that one. That's a good one, so I'm looking forward to that. Donny, have you seen The Witch? You would remember,
I did not.
You would remember it if you have.
I did not. No, I think I watched the trailer. It's in our list. Well, we just haven't got to it yet.
Well, now's the time, brother. You're about to get to it. So that's
I've heard good things. From you guys.
It's good. I think you're gonna like it. But that's the lineup coming up. We've got The Fly next week, the Austin Trunick interview on episode 126, and then episode 127, The Witch. And then we will follow it up with the second annual Spookshow Awards right after that. So we're getting close. We're inching closer and closer to the month of October. So thank you for listening to us on Labor Day. I know everybody's been probably having cookouts and enjoying family and friends and stuff. So if you listen to us here on Labor Day, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to us. And if not, you didn't hear me say this, so go fuck yourself. So. So, all right, I guess that's it. So, for Will, Donnie, Professor Smoak, I'm Josh. We are the All-American Spook Show podcast, and we'll talk to you next week for The Fly.
As you leave the theater, folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office. Thank you.